Hi guys, so in the last video we talked about the movement along the curve. Like when the price goes down, there will be expansion in the quantity demanded, and whenever there is an increase in the price, there will be contraction in the quantity demanded. Today we will talk about shifts in the demand. Shifts in the demand happens due to changes in the non-price factors. Changes in non price factors. What are those non-price factors? Remember, what is the definition of demand? Demand is the willingness and ability of the consumers to consume, to buy a certain product at certain price, ceteris paribus, or all other factors remaining constant. So now we will be changing all those factors that were assumed to remain constant, that were assumed to remain unchanged. And some, if there is a non-price factor that is positively affecting demand, then there will be increase in the demand. Or if it is adversely affecting the demand, then there will be a decrease in the demand. Now, what is increase and decrease in the demand? Let's say this is our demand. Original demand curve is D naught. This is our original demand curve D naught. Whenever there is an increase in the demand curve will shift outwards. Or whenever there is a fall in the demand curve will shift backwards. So this is our price and the quantity. So D naught is the original demand curve. It will shift to D1. It will shift outwards. This is called outward shift or increase in demand. Not increase in quantity demanded, but increase in the demand. What does that mean? The change in quantity demanded happens whenever there is a change in price of the product, but whenever the curve is shifting either outwards or inwards, it is due to the non-price factors. So let's say your original price was P naught, and at P naught, the quantity demanded was Q naught. But since there is a change in the non-price factor that is positively affecting demand, the demand curve will shift out to D1 and more quantity will be demanded at the same price. On the contrary, let's say D naught is the original demand curve, and if the demand curve shifts inward, this is called inward shift. Or decrease in demand. So at original price P naught, earlier the consumers were at D naught and they were demanding quantity Q naught. And if there is a inward shift of the demand curve, they will demand less quantity at the same price. Now the price is not changing. Whenever there is a shift in the demand curve, the price won't change. The price of the product itself won't change. The price stays at P naught, which was the initial price. And if the demand curve is increasing, then more quantity will be demanded at the same price. And if the demand is decreasing, if it is shifting inwards, then less quantity will be demanded at the same price. And what are those factors? What are those non-price factors that can cause either an outward shift of the demand or an inward shift of the demand? Let's say population. If there is an increase in population, then the demand for goods and services will increase because now we have more consumers. If the population is growing rapidly, we need the consumers will be demanding more goods, and as a result, increase in the population will shift the demand outwards. So at the same price, now more quantity will be demanded. But if there is a fall in the population, like if there is an outward migration, people leaving the country, or if there is a fall in the population, then the demand will shift back, the demand will shift inwards. So whenever there is a increase, when population increase, the demand will shift outwards. When population decreases, the demand will shift backwards. This is one reason. There can be other reasons as well, such as change in taste, fashion, weather. Like for instance, the demand for leather jackets or the demand for sweaters will increase in winters. At the same price, now more leather jackets will be demanded, which will cause an outward shift of the demand. While during cold weather, the demand for ice creams will fall and the demand for ice creams will shift inwards, which will lead to less ice creams being demanded at the same price. Although there is no change in the price of the ice creams or the leather jackets, but due to the change of weather, the demand is either increasing or the demand is decreasing. Then we have another reason, which is income. What will happen when income in the economy is increasing? If the average income in the economy is increasing, if there is economic growth and there is more employment opportunities available, then people will demand more goods. The demand for normal goods like cars, like private commute, will shift out because now people can afford more cars since their income is increasing. So, what will happen if there is an increase in income? If the income increases, then more quantity will be demanded at the same price. Let's say people will start buying more cars, even if there is no change in the price of cars, simply because of higher income, demand for normal goods will shift outwards. So there are two type of goods. One is your normal goods and the other one is inferior goods. Normal goods are goods that have a direct or positive relationship with income. If income increases, their demand will increase. On the other hand, what happens with the case in the case of normal inferior goods? Inferior goods have negative relationship or inverse relationship with income. As the income of the consumers increases, they will demand less of the good. Let's say we have public commute or public transport as an inferior good. So if the income in the economy increases, if the average income is going up, then people will leave public commute and they will move towards private commute. They will start buying bikes, they will start buying cars. So what will happen to the demand of inferior goods? The demand for inferior goods will shift back. If there is a increase in average incomes, let's say this was your initial demand for public commute, it will shift back, it will shift inwards to D1, from D0 to D1. So initially people were demanding more of the inferior good. Now they will demand less of the inferior good because they will switch towards normal good because of higher income demand for inferior goods will shift back. The demand, so the demand for inferior goods will shift inwards from D0 to D1. This happens with the inferior goods if there is an increase in the income. What will happen if there is a decrease in the income, if there is economic recession, if unemployment is increasing, or if the average income of the population is going down, then demand for normal goods will shift inwards and the demand for inferior goods will shift outwards.